Well, hey, Prosperity Collabs, welcome back to the podcast. In today's episode, we're joined by Ryan McKee. Now, Ryan is a seasoned real estate expert in the Riverside metro area who got into the industry at absolutely the worst time in 2008, but he's going to share how he transformed to rise with those challenges and made challenges into opportunities, how a focus on team building has really taken him to the next level, and how adaptability and the importance of deep client relationships is just critically important to success in this industry. So tune in for a journey filled with actionable insights that promise to inspire and empower real estate professionals, or really any entrepreneur looking to take it to the next level. Here's my interview with Ryan McKee.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you for the overextended introduction. I appreciate that.
I don't know that it is, man. I'm looking at numbers. In the last 12 months, we were talking about this before. I wanted to verify. You did what, 174 units over the last 12 months?
It's been a busy 12 months. So, yes, we are very blessed to have the amount of business that we've done, and we consider it having an opportunity to serve our community. So being able to serve that many families has been amazing.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And what I love about it, just kind of looking roughly at it, there's a lot of balance here. You lean towards listings, 100 listings, 74 buyers.
Yes.
And I've seen, numbers like this before, but I don't see numbers like this that are balanced that way.
Yeah,
right?
Thank you. I've over the course of the past 5 years, I've been able to develop a team, and that's really what's allowed me to scale my business. Prior to, it was myself. So in 2018, it was myself and a TC. Right. And plugging away at about 80 hours a week, which is completely unhealthy. And I got burnt out and I needed a change. So yes, now with a great team, we're able to leverage out what we're doing, and that's allowed us to help. The goal for this year is to hopefully help as much as 200 families and just keep increasing on a year-by-year basis.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of times when I see numbers like this, I see a heavy leverage towards buyers.
Yes.
Right? And so to see it leaning the other way is unusual, something I definitely want to talk about.
Yeah.
But I love to start these conversations just with the reality that nobody was born in real estate.
Yes.
In my research, I see you got your license at the best time in the market historically, 2008.
Of course.
Right after the crash.
Yes. Very well planned, right?
Tell me about that. What were you, how did you get into real estate? What made you think, as the market was sort of, crashing, I think is the easiest way to say it. You ran into the fire. What was the motivation there?
Yeah, so luckily for me, I wasn't necessarily born into real estate, but when I was 10 years old, actually, my father, Steve McKee, who's been a broker out here in Riverside for almost 30 years, I watched my dad get his license. I watched him get into real estate, and I watched it really, really change his life, and over the course of growing up, I watched him grow his business, and he's always ran a much different business than I have. So it's been really good for me to see all sides of real estate. But the funny thing is, and I always share this in my story, my dad specifically, but both of my parents always told me, go get a job that's a little more stable, get something with benefits, get something. So that's what I tried to do. So, real estate wasn't really a part of my story until I was 2008. I was about 30 years old. And, what I thought was my stable job, I had a job in civil engineering. I was a land surveyor for a couple of years, and I had benefits and a pension and a paycheck. And that all started to go away. So around 2006, we started slowing down, and then it slowed down more. And basically in 2008, I approached my dad and said, hey, I want to get licensed. And he said, nope, still a bad idea. Actually, it's a terrible idea right now. And I said, hey, I'm going to be doing this either way. I would rather, if I go, I'd rather learn under you, but I completely understand if that's not the case. And he said, okay, well, it seems like you're serious. So let's get this going. So that's where my journey started.
All right. So, and I hear this a lot, it's the plan A didn't work.
Right. Yeah.
And so plan B was better work.
It was. Yeah. And a perfect example, I didn't have anything else to fall back on. When you're 30 years old, at least in my opinion, it was a little late for me to go back to college. For me, by the time that I had tried everything else, But the interesting thing is I had always had a passion for real estate, but I always figured it would just remain that. I really loved going into properties, all aspects of negotiating a deal and being able to have the relational component that we get with our clients. Mm-hmm. So I loved all of that. I just never thought I'd be able to actually do it as a living.
Right. Right. So it's family business. You watched it, you witnessed it. And I love it because I do hear this from realtors as well to their kids, like, don't do it.
Smart advice.
But it's an incredible opportunity to create that lifestyle, right?
It is.
And you have done that. But so 2008, you get in, you're coming from civil engineering. Now you've got probably more eyes wide open than a lot of people, right? Yeah. But tell me about that, like getting started. How long did it take to feel like you had traction?
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing for me, and part of why I came in when I did it in 2008, obviously all of the bank foreclosures. And for my particular scenario, my dad's been an REO broker for years. So he already had a system in place that was able to sustain what we were getting into. And I always loved my dad's cycle. He would do, the REOs. He's worked for most of the major banks for years. And so he would do those. And then when the times changed and the market got better, they would develop. Mm-hmm. So he always had a plan. So I just figured I would follow his plan. And in 2008, he was running anywhere between 300 to 500 active assets at a time. And he had 3 transaction coordinators that had 30 to 40 deals in escrow at a time. And I could tell, he was absolutely swamped. He was working long hours, and I felt like it was an opportunity where I could jump in and help. So that is not an opportunity that most new agents would get, nor did I deserve at the time. Sure. However, it was an opportunity that I was able to capitalize on. And for the most part, hopefully my dad's not going to watch this, but hopefully for the most part, my training was, here's 10 files. I need you to figure this out and don't screw it up. These are big accounts. Yeah. And so that's what I did. I mean, obviously I had a little bit of help from one of my dad's partners, got it all figured out. And here's the interesting thing is I had figured that was the new norm. I figured that's what real estate was and what to expect. I made $100,000 in 2000, and it was mid 2008. And I figured this is it. I've arrived. Yeah. This is what to expect every year. Now, keep in mind, I was coming from a job where I was making $35,000 a year as a land surveyor, and $100,000 was well exceeding anything I had ever anticipated. But it also gave me that. It made me think that that's what it was and that's what it was going to be. Mm-hmm. And then we started to see changes, moratoriums, and the bank inventory started slowing down. And then that inventory went to auctions, and I was left in a predicament. I'm just being fully truthful here. We went from making 100,000, having a decent savings, to literally depleting everything. And had it not had been for a tax return that was my defining moment. Mm-hmm. Had it not been for a tax return that came in, I would have been out of real estate, and it would have been on to the next plan. Okay. So I think it's one of the things that I learned the most from was those few years, but it was also my defining moment where it actually really, really helped project me into what my career was going to be. Yeah. So
now it's interesting to get in to REOs at the level you did. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people who didn't go through that, they don't realize that is a totally different business.
It is. Yeah.
The amount of money that you are fronting to rehab properties, right? Yes. And but I think what that forces you to do, because a lot of agents, they run their business, they get in, they get deals, they're running their business out of their checking account, right? Yeah. And the business comes later, right? It does. They try to get success and the business comes later. You had financial success, but you also had to manage business early on.
Correct. Right? Yeah. Right. And for most of what I did, of course, it was more entry level. I was doing the rekeys and things more on a facilitation level for my dad. Luckily he was smart enough to not give me all of the responsibilities, because these are big accounts. But absolutely, I mean, it was one of the best training moments you could ever get to get access to something like that most people, back in those days, you were fighting over REO accounts. They weren't they weren't given away. So to have access to that, I knew from a very early start with that, the level of not only pressure that we were under with those to perform, because you're right, you're putting your own money on the line, you're putting your reputation on the line, and it's quite a bit, and it's a full-time commitment, and we don't know when it's going to start, when it's going to end, what the magnitude's going to be. We have to be ready for we had some banks that would give us 30 files at a time and say, here you go. And you can either take them or pass them along. So it was a for me, a very good learning experience, and very, very glad that I got that experience, but it also helped me define exactly what my business was going to look like.
Okay.
So,
So you said, you're living on the REO boom, right?
Right.
But this industry is cyclical, right?
Yes.
It comes and it goes and it comes and it goes, and the forces that drove it up will drive it down, right?
Very quickly.
And so you ran into that. You said tax returns sort of defined your future. What does that mean? Like, what do you get? What happened?
So, obviously going from having money in an account, knowing where the next paycheck was coming from, we had assets that we were working on. All of that dissipated really quickly. And I got to learn that I can either be a part of a business where somebody else is controlling whether I succeed or fail, or I can go out and create my own destiny. So me, myself and my wife, us really, in essence, going broke was what changed my mindset. And I went from a mindset of real estate is you get an REO account, you have these things come to you, it's going to be great forever. From a budgeting perspective, from a spending perspective, everything, to I need to change my business model, and I need to start going and relearning something. And I really need to make a business decision on how I'm going to truly run my business and not have it dependent upon somebody or some other entity.
Right.
And so I started changing it immediately. We had signs that we put up on every single property. So I started fighting for the opportunities to call every single buyer that was coming off of those, the sign calls. Whereas prior to, those weren't anything that I was concerned with. So that's where prospecting started for me. That's where I realized that I needed to start being intentional with, feeding my pipeline and building this database, because I didn't have a database at that point. So that's kind of where it started for me.
Okay. So it's moving from in essence, working for institutions.
Right. Yes.
And the lead generation is they hand you files to, now I'm focusing on people.
Correct.
And individuals. And it really is that self-determination, right? Which is, for a lot of people, that's what draws them to real estate.
Right.
Until they find out what that actually means, right?
Yes.
So, okay, so you shifted from institutional work, REOs, to now you're working with buyers. Now you're developing relationships.
100%.
So again, traction. What was the turnaround time? How'd that go?
It was almost instantaneous. So that, after that defining moment, my mindset shifted to wherever I was going to start letting people know that I'm no longer a secret agent, So I wanted to make sure everybody in my sphere of influence knew that I was passionate about real estate, but also that I am looking to do real estate, not one of those, hey, look me up and find me. It turned more intentional, where I was telling people, like, look, I'm supporting my family, and this is how I'm doing it. I'm very passionate about what I do, but I'm going to need your help. I need your help in helping me find other great people that I can service. I love working with first-time home buyers. Who do you know that's renting right now? So I started having those types of initial conversations, and lo and behold, I realized that if I asked for it, then I could actually get some opportunities. And if by that chance that I could capitalize on the opportunity and take great care of people, then I would, be able to build a business that way and get more opportunities. And so it started to click for me there. So
I'm smiling over here because I literally just recorded a video for social media where it was, you share your goals with your accountability partners, right?
Right.
But why don't you share them with your whole tribe?
Absolutely.
Right? And it's amazing how, if you can do that, people want to be part of that success.
100%.
Right?
100%.
But there's a mindset shift. It's that I see the world with abundance, and the people in my life, of course, they want to see me be successful. Right. And so it sounds like that's what you did. You just got like, this is what I'm doing, and help me do it. And no shame in that. It was like, hey, let's win together.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of it is, when you go to birthday parties and, you're having conversations with other, parents and people that are our sphere of influence, they would always ask, like, how's the real estate market? Or, it's kind of funny. I was able to train my wife because she was always commenting on, oh my gosh, you're so busy. And, I see you putting so much work into this. And, and she would transpose that to her friends on, oh my gosh, Ryan's so busy in real estate. And so it would invoke them to ask me questions. And especially during that market, very similar to right now.
Yeah.
What's going on with the market? What do you see? Is it a good time to buy? Is it a terrible, like, what should we do? And I wanted to really become that resource where people were asking me, what are you doing? What should I do? And really start to develop myself as more of an advisor, in our field.
Yeah.
So,
so I want to underline this, that volatility in the real estate market is a gift to realtors.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because the headlines are conversation starters and
100%.
Everybody wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because, you could put 100 realtors in the room and get 100 different answers.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
So, is it a great market? Sure. Is it a terrible market? Sure. But I think, like you said, I always think that that's one of the most interesting opportunities right now. And I love that question. And I think that's one of the things that as realtors, we fail ourselves on is we don't invite people to ask us more of those questions.
Right. Yeah.
Right. We want to leave work at work.
Yeah.
And what I realized is, for me, this is a lifestyle job where, I have to really shut it off. I mean, it's to a point now where my wife's like, okay, no more real estate questions, right? We're shutting it down, take off the hat.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I mean, I could talk about it 24/7. I truly love it that much, but, it was defining that to people, that would see me know, like, okay, this is what you do. I was no longer Ryan, the land surveyor. Now I'm Ryan, the real estate agent. And for me, it's either invoking questions or asking questions of other people that would potentially create a real estate related conversation.
Yeah, totally. I look at it this way. In a sense, you're a lifeline for people because we're always looking, like, small talk's uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Right? Well,
Absolutely.
Hey, I'm the solution. You know what I mean? Right. I walk in, I got something everybody wants to talk about. You know what I mean?
There you go.
I just made everybody's day on the sidelines of soccer easier.
There you go.
Right?
That's right. Yeah.
That's it, right? And if you think about it that way, we're drowning in connection, but we're lacking in authenticity.
Yeah, very true.
So we have all this social media connection. And so if you can be the guy who gives people the opportunity to actually really talk to each other, right, you're actually doing a service in that way.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Well, and it's like you said, it's creating relationships. And for me, it's levels of trust. Sometimes I think the best advisor is to not always be a salesperson. Yeah. Sometimes it's to say, you know what, it's not in your best interest. And sometimes those are conversations we're having right now, with 6 and 6.5% interest rates. For some people, it's, you're in a great position. Yeah. Stay where you're at.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And with others, it's the answer is completely different. Like, yes, you need to invest. Look at all the people that were on the sidelines in 2019 and early 20.
Well, it comes down to, am I going to take the time to learn about what it is you need?
Yes.
Like what it is, what is driving this question? Because if not, you're right. I'm going to sell you a house, but you didn't need one, right?
No.
Or I'm going to sell your house, but you didn't need to move. You'd been better staying with your 3.3 interest rate.
Absolutely.
But if I understand the whole picture, now I can be your fiduciary.
Correct. Right? 100%. Yeah. And just piggybacking off that is really the premise of what I've developed my business into today, which is I want to be the catalyst. We're helping, these families with if not the biggest, one of the biggest investments of their life.
Oh, absolutely.
We have to be professional advisors because there are high level questions that we are either going to be saying yes, no, or maybe to. And, I have to have the right resources and information to be a proper advisor. Because if I've just been watching TikTok and that's where I'm getting my sources of information from, may not be the best, right? I want to be able to say a little bit more than marry the house, date the rate. I want to be able to actually lay this out and show you, here's what the numbers are telling us. Here's what the data is telling us. Let's make an informed decision based off of that.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you shifted your business. You started focusing on people, not institutions, really that just being the guy going out there, being out in the open about it.
Right.
Yeah, but you succeeded at a massive level. So tell me about
were you running systems? Was there database? How did you make sure that you were staying in touch with these people so that the success was a guarantee versus an accident?
Yeah,
right?
great question.
Yeah.
I mean, so what you'll see is, obviously with my timing on getting into real estate, that should tell you a lot about me.
Yeah.
It honestly took me almost 10 years of running a very bad business and getting to a point of exhaustion to reach another turning point for me, which was to get into coaching and building a team. So really for almost 10 years, I was just a grinder. I've always been more of a blue collar. I'm a grinder. I will work. I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not going to be the one that's creating systems and doing all that. I have to be shown that things. And then basically I can just emulate that.
Yeah.
But I'm a hard worker. So, what I did was from the REO boom, I started to meet these large hedge funds, investors that came into our markets, and they said, are you willing to write offers for us? I said, sure. That's an easy opportunity to represent a cash investor that wants to buy multiple properties in my area. And the one question that I asked was what actually helped me the most is it was suggested to me by my dad. He said, why don't you ask these investors what their end game strategy is? I thought, that's genius. Why didn't I think of that? So I did. And I had one of my investors that said, this is, probably we don't know the amount of time, but at some point there will be liquidation here. And I said, great. If I'm able to help you acquire these properties, can I be a part of the end game strategy? So that really actually carried me through about really up until about 2017. So it had a pretty long run with some of these hedge funds. And I would get, in some cases, they would, one of my biggest portfolios, they had 30 properties and said, hey, we need to liquidate these within 30 days.
Yeah.
Great problem to have. So, I think my biggest year as a solo agent, it was somewhere around 2016, 17, sold 108 properties that year between listings and still working buyers on my own. However, that was the point where I was getting towards my worst. I was working out of the house, didn't have systems, didn't have, we're talking about like CRMs and all of that to create this. Mine was purely just hard work and long hours.
Yeah.
So, it was working. It was not efficient. And I was absolutely getting burnout. Yeah. So
I love that you massively successful and just said, but I ran a terrible business for 10 years.
It's just the truth.
Well, I love it. Because it speaks to the fact that you can hustle your way to economic success, but you can't sustain it.
Yes,
right?
100%.
And you absolutely had the hustle and the work ethic, right? But about 2018, you realized if I'm going to continue at this rate or continue to grow, something's got to change.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it was really just, even being more transparent, it was at a level for me where I was thinking real estate's not for me.
Yeah.
I can't figure this out. I was really just defeated and figured, it's not going to change at this point, and I don't know how to make it change, and I don't know what to do. Yeah. And so I was really at a turning point, and then it wasn't until a chance meeting with somebody that changed the trajectory of that. But, I think that God puts people in our lives at times when we don't expect them, but we need them the most. Mm-hmm. And this was a person that honestly, I was not anticipating having any kind of relationship with. It kind of worked out, but that was kind of the turning point for me. Was 10 years of craziness and literally at a point where I was ready to throw in the towel.
Okay. 10 years. So 2018. So essentially you found a mentor.
Well, no, so it wasn't a mentor.
Okay.
It came in the form of a lender. So for all of us as real estate agents, and when you're producing in the area, there's a lot of people, that want to collaborate. And I love that. I think that's one of the things that you'll see about, me is I will answer everybody and I will meet with everybody because I just feel like in our industry, even like this podcast, I love it because ultimately there's always something that we can either learn or, create some sort of relationship with. And that's what it started with is this gentleman was forming a relationship with me before he said, hey, let's meet for coffee. And it was just a different approach. It stood out a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
But long story short of this, I ended up meeting him for coffee. And he was telling me about a coaching program that he was involved with. And I said, oh, one of those. Okay, coaching's a scam. And, this is my mindset, of course. Sure. But my mindset told me coaching's a scam. Why would you pay for coaching? I already know how to do real estate. And he said, yes, Ryan. Sure. Yes, son. But he goes, how many hours are you working a week? I'm like, 80 to 85.
Yeah.
How's your marriage? Well, if you ask me, I think it's great. If you ask my wife, she'd probably tell you otherwise because she never sees me. So, and my commute home is from the home office to the kitchen. And by the time I get home from my little walking commute, I am done talking real estate, and I'm giving my family and my wife the rest of me as opposed to the best of me. And it's, obviously at that point I was like getting emotional with it. I'm like, oh man, I'm a mess,
Yeah. Yeah.
And he had just shared with me what this particular coaching program had done and what he had applied and how it had changed his life. And I said, okay, I'm listening. I'm interested. And then what he did was he continued to we talked about it. I didn't sign up that day. I didn't make any changes that day. It took almost a year of us talking about it before I actually took the next step. And then once I took the next step, was able to find out, what it was. They do what's called a summit, which is back then, of course, they were still doing seminars. It was an in-person seminar. I was really exposed to the program. And then that was the start for me on changing that.
Right.
So, around 2018, sorry.
I love it. And it's, hustle will take you so far, but at that point, if you want to break through that ceiling, you've got to do things that don't come naturally.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's, I always say this, like there was a point where you weren't the kind of guy who rides a bicycle.
Right.
Right.
That's very true.
But you figured it out, and
That's
now
right.
you probably enjoy it, or you did at one point, right? It's the same thing in your business career. There are things that come naturally, right? And we can take them so far,
right?
But at some point, you have to do something that comes unnaturally.
Yes.
And in order to do that, you need a coach. You need someone from the outside who can say, "What about this?" And you do things that feel uncomfortable and they feel wrong, but they work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it was interesting for me because I think what had really happened, despite me knowing that it was happening, is I had developed an ego, and and I said, look at me, and this is in my own mind. It wasn't outwardly projected, but I really think that I was believing like, hey, I'm good. I'm doing great units, making good money. It's just, I was at a point where I wasn't enjoying what I was doing and didn't know what to do to fix it.
Yeah.
So, a lot of ego, a lot of pride, and going in that direction, obviously we see it in our industry is, that can take people out of the business really quick.
Oh yeah.
And so
yeah.
I think I just became, I got defeated enough to where I was at a point of submission and said, okay, I'm willing to do whatever it takes at this point.
Yeah.
So
that's incredibly powerful.
yeah.
So, I think there's a lot of wisdom there because it can take people out of the industry. It can take them out through burnout. It can take them out through heart disease. It can take them out through failed marriages, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And there's no point in having this career where you're making a lot of money if the rest of it isn't okay.
Right. Very true.
And so I love that journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And you nailed it. I think, we see a lot of the negative effects of, changing markets. I think in the last, year for sure, the market's changed a lot. I think when the market's good, real estate is great for everybody and the market expands and compresses, and how we handle that can be different. Some people can transition easily and just say, hey, I've given it a shot and real estate's not for me. And I don't have the statistics of what the failure rate is, but I know it's high. And I don't have the statistics of what the divorce rate is, but I know it's high.
Yeah.
And the, substance abuse and things of that nature. And for me, all those are not options. However, gosh, I felt myself getting into a point where I was just so defeated that I didn't know what else to do.
Right.
So
yeah,
and it was because of a relationship with somebody else that said, hey, Ryan, and there was no benefit to him. Hey, there's a solution out there and I want to share it with you. So that was huge.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into that a little bit. So, 2018, you went to the coaching, right? And we started to adopt systems, models. You started your team, right?
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people in this industry start teams.
Yeah.
And they last for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And, and then they're done. They go back to being, because again, unnatural things.
Right.
What's enabled you to continue to be successful, to continue to grow? I mean, obviously you said the coaching, but if you can get a little more granular in that.
Oh man. Well, since we're being real, right? mean, I'm a 5-year overnight success, right? So it's taken me 5 years of consistent failures to get where I'm at today.
Okay.
And I love that that's my answer, because I think if it was easy, then I wouldn't appreciate it as much as I do today.
Sure.
And this is what I've learned is that people, because when you develop a team, it's people. Mm-hmm. And I've adopted a servant leader mentality, and I've realized and learned, and I struggle with this every day because, like I said, for the most part, it's usually I'm thinking about me first, and then everybody is a secondary measure. But I found that the few days where when I can actually implement what I want my vision to be, which is to put my team first and my clients first, then I become a better leader.
Yeah.
And so the honest truth is, in 2018, it started with me as a team of one. So I had a brokerage. I had my own brokerage because that was a part of my past too. I thought starting my own brokerage and, I'll manage properties and do all that. It just didn't work for me. Right. Works very well for other people, but not for me. And so when I started in my coaching, they had actually let me know that what you're running right now is not a business. It's a nonprofit organization. And that was a good reality, hit there. I shaved everything down and I basically started to rebuild the foundation from there. I started as a team of one, and I had my pre-existing brokerage. I was able to take a few people, and I started my team as myself and one other person that was helping me to build it. Right. And basically that was the foundation of where it started. Mm-hmm. And over the course of the years, I would add people, and then unfortunately it wouldn't work out for whatever reason. I will attribute it to it, honestly, as anybody that's left me is because I failed them as a leader. Mm-hmm. That's just the honest truth. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that because I feel like I've been able to grow. But man, I let a lot of people down. And that's something that I'm okay with today because it made me realize what I needed to work on to allow myself to get better so I can continue to grow this. Yeah. And it's been the same thing with the team. There's days where I've woken up and said, you know what, this isn't for me. Yeah. But long story as far as the progression, started as a team of one. And here's the interesting thing about coaching that worked for me. Like I said, I'm a blue collar guy. I'm an implementer. If you give me a plan or a play, I will execute the play. If you say, and literally this is funny, even in my schedule the other day, like I was telling my wife, because my wife is our operations manager and she's a big part of running my schedule. I said, if it's in my schedule says go jump off a cliff, I will literally take that literally, go drive to a cliff and jump off of it. Yeah. But been able to go from, out of the house in a 2-year period with coaching. The biggest thing that really made me realize that just doing what somebody else was telling me to do, because the secret sauce for me was accountability. Yeah. Following a plan and implementing it in a 2-year period. So from 2018 to 2020, I quadrupled my business. So that was in terms of, I look at net profit. So I'm not looking at gross, I'm looking at net. Yeah. So net four times on that year on my tax returns, quadrupled my business, and I cut my hours by 25 hours per week. Yeah. That was the biggest change. Yeah. Within that time, they also told me I needed to move out of my home office. My basically mentor, the boss that owns my coaching program, said, Ryan, I'm giving you 3 months. Yeah. If you're not out of your office and into 1,200 square feet and you're building your team, you can't be with me. Boom, done. 3 months, it was done. That's what started it. Yeah. So
that's unbelievable. And I love what you're saying because as independent contractors, we tend to be independent minded, right? And everybody wants to play jazz. Everyone wants to be Michael Jordan. Right. You can't be. No. Right? You cannot do that until you learn how to play scales. That's right. You can't do it until you spent the time putting the ball on the court, right? Yeah. And what you're telling me is they said, go practice your scales. And I practiced my scales. Yes. You know what I mean? Yeah. I just freaking ran the number, just got it and I did that. It's Tiger Woods just taking swings, right? Yeah, so true. But look at the phenomenal impact, right? Yeah. That's unbelievable. So tell me about the team, right? So you said leadership was hard. Anybody you lost, you failed them. You've come to this idea of a servant mentality, and I'll tell you what: anybody I talk to who's successful, that's the heart, right? Until you realize that the people aren't commodities; they're people who have their own individual goals, right? And their goals don't disappear when they join your team. No, right? They don't. And so if you can align their goals with your goals, now we've got an opportunity for massive success. Oh, 100%. Yeah. So what was that turning point for you? Or was it just a gradual burn?
Yeah, it was a gradual burn. There was no real aha moment. There was a bunch of small aha moments that and usually I didn't learn the lesson until it was in the whatever happened was in the rearview mirror and I could look back at it. But here's the main thing I learned about growing a team is it's more than just throwing a group of people in a room and saying we're a team.
Yeah.
I had to learn that I have to build my team structure foundationally. And if I have no clue what that vision is for my team, then how am I going to build it? So, and that's how I started was I knew I needed to build a team. However, I figured, the structure that they had given me, I'm like, that's a great structure, but I really like my structure better. So I'm going to go try it my way. So I would do that and fail, right? So I figured throw on more buyer's agents on a team, go get into production. Well, what I didn't realize was I would hire a bunch of great buyer's agents to come on my team. And we would be bringing in so much business and production that I didn't equip them on how to get through transactions and how to procure more.
Right.
That I was getting frustrated because I was trying to run my own business, didn't have enough time to train them, therefore frustrating them, setting them up for failure. Everybody's frustrated and it would all fall apart.
Right.
So it was suggested to me, why don't you build your operational structure first? Because then once you have the foundation, then you can support this to where, that took time. I would build the wrong team, that would fail. Rebuild it again, try it differently, fail again.
Yeah.
Finally, a couple years in, I said, okay, I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to follow that. And then, immediately as soon as I surrendered to that, it was results.
And it's a pretty common tale, right?
Yeah.
Because you hire admin, you think I'm spending money.
Right. 100%.
Hire buyer's agent, they're bringing me money.
Yeah.
Right? But, I heard someone say, and it made so much sense. You hire your admin, right? And that person ultimately can become your director of operations. You hire your second admin.
Right.
And now you have a culture.
Yes.
Right. And you're going to have a consistent culture because your admins don't turn over as much as your agents do.
Correct.
Right. So
Correct.
now you can start bringing people into that culture because you laid that cultural foundation as much as you did sort of the operational foundations.
Absolutely.
Right? And that can be sustaining. You're bringing people into it. So,
Correct. Yeah.
So,
no, I love that you use the word culture because, really that's what this is we look at ourselves as a wheel, right? And there's going to be a different spoke that fits a different skill set or personality trait or things of that nature. And what I was doing was I was throwing a bunch of people in and they were all the same spoke. So I had this very unbalanced wheel.
Yeah.
And it wasn't till I was taught that I needed to have different skill sets and personality sets to round out my business. So for sales, I needed a specific person because I kept wondering I'm hiring these operational people and then I'm forcing them to do sales related activity and they hate it. So it wasn't until I realized, this person isn't designed for that. Mm-hmm. I always figured that's okay. I'll morph them into this, right? They'll change, they'll like it. And so that's why I really needed to learn a lot of that. And something that we've incorporated, we do what's called disc testing, which a lot of people are familiar with. Yeah. But then another game changer for us was incorporating love languages. Yeah. And when that was suggested to me, we decided that we were going to put everybody's disc test up right in front of their office so I could see, because it's a visual reminder for me, okay, this person is a high D and I, so I need to bullet points straight to the point. It gives me helpful hints on how to communicate. But also if I know that their love languages are being met, oh my gosh, that is a game changer where, if it's words of affirmation and, oh my goodness, you did such an amazing job, public praise, that goes a long way. You see in my office right now, we give out these yearly awards. And things that you would think are probably like, oh, that's kind of stupid, biggest pep, whoever's got the best, team culture or whatever, things like that nature. Yeah. I mean, this literally, it's up on their desk. They are super proud of it, showing everybody when they come in. Yeah. That's what's defined the culture. And what I love, something that we've implemented is we've created what we call our 10 there are defining team standards and non-negotiables. Mm-hmm. And it's basically the 10 commandments of the McKee Real Estate Group, which is be responsible, own your actions, all of these items where it defines our culture.
Yeah.
So now the culture allows people in or weeds people out. We hire and fire based off of our culture now.
Yeah.
And basically everybody's got ownership in that. So,
Yeah.
but these are just things that 5 years ago, I'm like you said, I saw an employee as a liability, not an asset.
Right.
And it was an expense, not an investment.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's the opposite.
Yeah.
You know, it is how the more that I can pour into these, you know, individuals and their families and change their life, the benefit is exponential to them and to us. So,
well, what you just described to me is the difference between a mom and pop donut store and a Krispy Kreme. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You've got that culture, you've got the systems, you've got all this that you're inviting people into.
Right.
And anybody can open up like a fast food restaurant.
Right.
But not everybody can be a Chick-fil-A.
Right.
You know what
Exactly.
I mean? And you're saying I'm building a Chick-fil-A.
Absolutely.
The Chick-fil-A of real estate.
Yeah. You know, and it's always the goal, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, ultimately we have such a long way to go.
Yeah.
But we've defined our vision, you know, and as a leader, I needed to start with that because I always realized I failed to cast my vision to my team and say, this is who we are and this is what we are working towards.
Yeah.
So once we defined our vision as a team, once we defined our non-negotiables and our team standards, then the business components came in. Then we started setting our goals and the team was bought in.
Yeah.
Then it wasn't just about Ryan. It was about, hey, if I do this, here's what's in it for me as well, too.
Yeah.
And there was buy-in. That's when things started to not only grow, but become fun.
Yeah. I've got to say, I am enjoying this conversation so much.
Thank you.
But I'm also cognizant we're over by 10 minutes.
Okay, cool.
And so, no, which I'm fine with because there are no rules, but I also know you're a really busy guy. So, but there's just so much good here. Like your insight with love languages.
Yeah.
You know, how else, if you don't know how people communicate, how can you communicate with them?
Yeah, you know, you can't. And what I've realized is we don't ask enough questions. And I think that it is okay for us to have a business component, but a relational component with our employees. So it's mandatory for me, not for my team, but it's mandatory for me. I like to, whether it's we go sit for coffee, whether it's come in for lunch, whether it's just 10 minutes in my office, I want to know it's a non-work conversation. Whatever you want that conversation, we could talk about the Laker game. We could talk about you going shopping. It is all about you and whatever you want to talk about. But the only rule is we're not talking about work.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on with you and your family, because here's the thing that I learned is in many of these conversations, I found out that people are struggling. And it's given me an opportunity to say, hey, I in this conversation, I realized that you had this problem with your tooth. I've set up an appointment with my dentist and it's all taken care of. I need you to go in on Tuesday during work hours. You're going to go get this taken care of.
Yeah.
In our world, it's not anything that's going to change from a P&L standpoint for me.
Right.
But for somebody where literally as an employee, that's a decision that they have to make. Am I going to put groceries on the table or am I going to go get my tooth fixed? Those are things where, you know, and I mean, honestly, is there a benefit for them? Of course there is.
Sure.
But oh my gosh, did I like the benefit that I get from something like that? It's like, that's why we're doing this, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that we try to incorporate with our clients. And that's why for me, developing a relational real estate business, it's been everything that's brought this back to where it's purposeful and fun for me.
Yeah.
And the more that I'm in that, as opposed to a transactional, because that's what I realized after all these years is I was always in a transactional mindset.
Yeah.
And that's a mindset of scarcity versus abundance, fear versus, you know, and once that changed, everything changed for me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, I love it because what you're hearing is the roadmap to success, right? It's not about me. It's not about the transaction. It's not about the next deal. It's about the people sitting on the other side of the table. It's about the people you're working with. And you can't be a leader if you're not willing to help people grow.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to just 2 more questions.
Perfect.
Because I thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, thanks for having me.
This would have been a great lunch. It's been a fantastic interview.
There you go.
I'd love to do it again.
Love it.
So we know we're in a shifting market.
Yes.
Right. What do you right now see as the biggest challenge to the industry?
Yeah. You know, here's my honest answer. You're probably going to hear rates. You're probably going to hear inventory. I'm not going to say either of those.
Okay.
I don't think that those are a challenge. I think that those are an opportunity.
Okay.
So here's my biggest challenge. I think it's lack of adaptation. And I think it's mindset, right? So a lot of people ask me right now, is it a good market? Is it a bad market? My answer is it's the market. This is the market. And what are you going to do? Because my experience tells me in 2008, when the sky was falling, we created something out of that. It's the same opportunity right now. And so I think our biggest challenge is going to be, it's going to be mindset, and it's going to be creating opportunities, because my honest answer is there are plenty of opportunities. My goal every single year is to have I want to be 1% better. I want to have my best year every year. And to me, I've defined that as a non-negotiable. So I'm going to look for those opportunities, because me not hitting my goal is not going to happen.
Yeah, I love that. I'm tracking with you on that too. You know, the market is the market is the market is the market, right? There's always opportunity. We've never had a market where nobody sold real estate.
Correct.
Right.
True.
And so just go get your unfair share of that.
Yeah.
Do the hustle that somebody else won't do. Run the system somebody else won't do.
There it is.
And the business is absolutely there.
Absolutely.
Right? So what's your mindset? It's not I can't because, it's I will because.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. And just like you said, there are so many opportunities. If you even look at the number of sales out there, we're blessed to be in a good market. I have a good friend that's in Reading, and they have about 600 total units in the entire MLS.
Yeah.
We get that in a zip code.
Right.
So, you know, that's a tough market. And his mindset is, I'm going to go get all 600 of those.
Yeah.
So,
you know, my classic example is people will say, well, everybody knows a realtor.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, you.
That's right.
Like if that's not your mindset, you got a problem.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And it's literally that simple.
Yeah.
You know, it's either that's going to be what limits and defeats you, is everybody knows a realtor. So why would they choose me?
Yeah.
If that's your attitude, you are already going to fail.
Right.
Turn in your license, right? Or everybody knows a realtor, but you know what? I am the one.
Yeah, exactly.
I am, and I'm going to show them, and you know, you are crazy if you don't go with us, right? That needs to be the mindset.
Absolutely. Okay. And next question, what is next? You know, you've done massive amounts of business. You're building the team. What's the next stop?
Yeah. You know, it's been a year of changes. So, you know, blessed to be a part of a new brokerage and new opportunities there. You know, I think that in real estate, the one thing that COVID has taught us is that we can be very adaptable.
Yeah.
And with where real estate is going, I mean, you know, obviously to me, I don't feel old, and you know, unless I ask my kids, but back when I started in the business, it was Thomas guides, pagers, MapQuest, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You look at the technology now it's like, you know,
man.
Chat GPT, write me a listing description, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's an interesting business. I love it. Do I think Chat GPT is going to put us out of business? Absolutely not. They said the same thing when they invented the wheel. Oh my gosh, we're going to put ourselves out of business, right? Yep. I am so excited as far as what's next. I feel like that this year is a year of opportunity. But let me tell you why I feel that way, because I do the research. So what I've needed to incorporate in my business, because I want to be a consummate professional and I want to be that resource. That's the same premise that I built on for the last 15 years, is I want to be the person that people come to for everything. Yeah. So I'm continuing to build my database, my resources. So you need a contractor? Great. I've got 3. Which one would you like?
Right.
I continue to do that, but also now it is, I need to be an expert in the market, which means all things economic that influence real estate. Right. So I meet with my CFP every other week. We do a full analysis on all aspects of the economy. So I'm looking at, you know, obviously we all watch the CPI reports and things of that nature. I'm watching all the other components beyond that. We offer a lot of that informational, you know, we've created a event that we do for our clients because I want my clients to be involved and educated in that. And of course, our premise is we're going to help you get into debt on one of the biggest assets of your life. My true job is to help you get out of that as quickly as possible and help you build generational wealth.
Right.
I don't want to be an agent that just says that. I want to be an agent that proactively does that. So what most people see that work with us is once the transaction's over, that's really when my job starts.
Right.
So I love that component because then it's, you know, we're going to help you to build wealth based off of this, you know, this platform that we've done with real estate, but there's so many other things that I need to be helping you with. So let me get to work on that.
Yeah. So I love it. What I'm hearing is we're changing our mindset from real estate sales company to real estate wealth advisors.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. You know, and that really defines whether this is going to be a relationship, because with a relationship, there's engagement, there's continuation. With a transaction, it's thank you so much for the paycheck. Call me when you're ready again.
Right. Right. Awesome. Well, hey guys, it was a treat. I hope you enjoyed it. There's so much good information here. So I don't care if you're a brand new agent and you're struggling. You just heard what struggle looks like, right? I don't care if you're at your top of your game and you feel like you're going to burn out. You just heard what the next step is. It's get some coaching, learn some models, learn to do things unnaturally. Maybe check out the love languages.
Yeah. Definitely.
But
definitely.
Just a fantastic interview, Ryan. Any last words before we sign off today?
Yeah, no, just like you said, this is an industry where I love the camaraderie. I think one of the things that we need to do is just like with this podcast, and thank you for having me. I think that this is a great testament of, we need to band together. I think strength in numbers is everything. But whether you're new or old in real estate, I think that this is such an amazing industry that you can learn every day. So be a student every day. Always be willing to learn and grow and expand. And I think that the sky is the limit. So hope I get a chance to work with all of you.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time.